Let's get into the Hegelian dialect. Most people don't even know what it is. It's the psychological strategy that the most elite people in the world are using, mostly against us for nefarious means. We need to understand it. We need to notice it when it's being employed. And I want to share it with you today. So, as I said, it's a psychological strategy. It's very effective. It's very influential. I'll cover a couple of things with you that I consider to be very important portions of the Hegelian dialect: agenda, problem, reaction, solution. I'll tell you where I've noticed it being used in my lifetime. And I'm sure once I tell you what I've experienced and noticed, you'll be guided to think back through your time period alive on this earth and where you've seen it employed. I end off here with Overton's Window and how it is being used. Also, Edward Bernays, you need to know who this guy is, and how propaganda ties into all this. It's shocking. It's crazy how boastful these jackasses are about using these techniques. And it's right out there in the open. And here it comes. Let's start with George Hegel. From 1770 to 1831, he lived. He was a German philosopher. To put it simple, the basis of Hegel's philosophy dictates that a human mind can't understand anything unless it's split into two polar opposites. We're that simple, huh? Good, evil, right, wrong, left, right. That's the simplicity he sees our minds as filtering information. A list of modern day usage employs a wide range of tactics. Here they are: dialogue, compromise, consensus forming, conflict resolution, divide and conquer, deceit, redefinition of words, renaming objectionable things, crisis creation, obfuscation, which means concealment by making something confusing and hard to interpret by otherwise hiding its true intent. Yes, I have noticed that all these things are being used in authoritative positions. Have you noticed? But this is the one that really jumped out to me, and I mentioned it in the beginning. It links into our era. Agenda, problem, reaction, solution. So how did I see a connection with this to modern day? Well, this is the modern time connection I see. Agenda: the United Nations, NATO, IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, WHO, World Health Organization, WEF, World Economic Forum, and many more acronym associations. They want a world centralized power. Okay, move on to the next one. Problem: manufactured chaos. Many incidents have verifiable resources after the fact of who really created the incident. Fear is a major weapon that is used here, of course. Reaction: repressive control, People are scared, emotional, many times asking for security, losing rights being part of the deal. In the end, solution. A step closer to one world order, one religion, and one monetary system. That's what the big picture is I see right now that ties directly into this theorem, this psychological matrix of the Hegelian dialect. This may sound extreme, or maybe you can see it. Walk back with me through your life. Think of major tragedies in your country and in your lifetime. Okay? I did this myself. Number one, major or minor shooting somewhere equals fear campaign, gun control campaign, or rights being taken away. Think most countries now have lost the right to bear arms. America still has it, but they're always trying. Since I have been born, I have consistently watched them try to restrict our gun rights or take them away. Always. Based on a fear campaign, on something based on the news that happened. And this is what I find interesting. I did a little research. I looked up the causes of death, a chart for U.S. for 2019. 17,709 homicides. Not all of these are by guns. But let's move on. 41,362 deaths by car accident. 65,717 deaths by drug disorders. This is either prescribed medications or people that have drug addictions. 77,719 deaths by diabetes. 957,455 cardiovascular disease deaths. Notice no fear porn from the media or campaigns for helping or maybe stopping any of the other issues I named beside homicide, which could be committed by a gun. The last three that I mentioned, which would be drug disorders, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, are highly preventable. Arguably, the government, pharmaceutical, and food industries are perfectly okay with these people dying as long as they keep making money. That's why it's not mentioned. That's why there's no news coverage on any of this stuff. And just think of the difference. Almost 1 million people died of cardiovascular disease. In most cases, this is preventable by lifestyle habits, by diet, and by exercise. Not a word. But homicides, 17,709 homicides in America. And I guarantee you in 2019, there was numerous campaigns against taking guns away from Americans, just like there is every year. A point to be made there. Notice what they go after. They don't care about you or your well-being like they say they do. That's easy proof right there by looking at the numbers. Next thing I recalled from my lifetime, serious disease outbreak equals another fear campaign, public panic, lockdowns, job or business loss, coerced use of medicines that weren't proven either. Lies are the truth. Truth becomes lies. Confusion, separation, mental trauma affects everyone in some form. Pharma and investors make billions. These all fall under the Hegelian dialect, how they've started and ended. Let's go back in time. Somewhere in my life, there was a terrorist threat, a big one. It equaled a fear campaign. It's always a fear campaign. Notice that. Mental trauma affects everyone in some form. New laws are passed, and they're ready almost immediately after this horrible terrorist incident. Loss of privacy happens. Wars are started. Millions of innocents are killed. Billions are made by weapons contractors and bankers. Whistleblowers have to run for their life instead of the people that they blew the whistle on. These are quick examples I can easily bring up. If you search, maybe you can find the agenda. You may be able to piece it all together. Sometimes it can be false flags or over-exaggerated. In the end, nothing good is gained by the public. A little more freedom or privacy is lost. Almost all major events in history employ the Hegelian dialect. There's a problem, a planned manufactured crisis, or taking advantage of one that's currently in place. There's the reaction. The public is overwhelmed with emotion, demanding something be done, even losing their rights for safety or protection. Then there's the solution. It has been predetermined from the very beginning, in most cases, by the person that perpetrated the problem. Moving on. The Hegelian dialect has widely been used by governments, media, public relations, and corporations around the world because they know it works. In order to avoid falling victim to these tricks, you must remember the process involved. Try not to be lured into subjective, emotional, or group thinking. Anytime a major problem or issue arises in society, think about who will gain or profit from it. Then remove yourself from the equation and take a step back to look at it objectively, unemotionally. Verify where or what is the so-called problem, and maybe who caused it. Who is reacting? Why are they reacting? And in what way? Then, of course, the big one, look for who is ready to offer you a solution. That's just the thought process I think most people should go by. When I was formulating my method of how I would look at the next big crisis that is destined to come our way, everybody out there, you can guarantee there's another one on its way. When? I don't know, but you better think instead of just reacting. Okay, this quote, listen to this. If we understand the mechanisms and motives of the group mind, it is now possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without them knowing it. That's Edward Bernays from the book Propaganda in 1928 that he wrote. This bastard is so bold as to write his tricks out in the book that he uses with governments and corporations throughout the world. Okay, let me tell you about Edward Bernays, because I'm getting ahead of myself. Edward Bernays is the father of propaganda. That's what he is considered. He was hired by corporations and governments employing strategies such as the Hegelian dialect, playing on the emotions of the masses, often for nefarious purposes that serve the elite and compromise the integrity of the common people. He boasts rather proudly of it. His uncle just happened to be the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud. I'm sure he learned a thing or two from him. He shaped public opinion to suit the interest of whomever had the most money and power at the time. Here is another one of his quotes expressing what a moronic ass he thinks me and you are. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and the opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of the country. Again, he just slaps you right in the face with it. That's the freaking truth. And people think there's Democrats and Republicans. You think your vote matters? There is a group above these people that are directing everything. And at the helm of it all, I would say money pretty much rules all. Money and greed. Moving on. One more from Edward Bernays, and I think you'll have enough. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. I mean, how much more plainly can this piece of garbage put it right in your face? He's literally mocking people with this book he wrote, saying how easy it is to control people and telling them who does it. Next, this quote encompasses the pride and ego of humans, explaining those who are stubborn to abort old ideas, so to grow and learn, they can't admit to ever being wrong. One of the saddest lessons in history is this: if we've been fooled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of ever being fooled. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. It has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Quote by Carl Sagan. Bonus material here at the end. The Hegelian dialect is not the only thing being employed to brainwash people, to guide your decisions, to make you more suggestible, to direct your thinking. There's other principles employed as well that stack upon the Hegelian dialect. The Overton window suggests there is a window of acceptable ideas, political policy, public discourse, and behaviors. Now, that's relatively true, right? We can say there's an acceptable way to act and behave and what we expect from politicians and people in authority positions, right? There's an acceptable way that we're supposed to act in public around other people. We're not supposed to act like 5-year-olds. And we're not supposed to be running out our door naked, cussing and screaming. And that would be very extreme or odd. So everything inside the window is normal and expected, while everything outside that Overton window is radical, is ridiculous, is unthinkable, or even extremist. Overton argued the easiest way to move the acceptable window was to force people to consider ideas at the most extreme, as far away from the window as possible. Because forcing people to consider an unthinkable idea, even if they reject it, would make all less extreme ideas seem acceptable by comparison. It would move the acceptable window slowly in the direction you want by employing this technique. Do you notice this in today's society? Are there extreme things being employed, extreme movements and directions, so that we will accept certain new standards in our lifestyle? Have you seen it over the last decade? maybe the last 20 years. I don't know. But I know one thing. Look at the 1900s. Look at the 1950s. Look at the 2000s. Look at 2023. Each step you take, when you look at the era I'm speaking of, there was a complete different level of acceptance. Now, of course, you go back far enough, you get into crazy crap like slavery and stuff that's an abomination to think about nowadays. But there was even women were not treated as equals, and smoking was okay in public and on airplanes. And I mean, I could come up with all sorts of different crap. Gay marriage is now acceptable. Once it was not. Now we're pushing into this new trans agenda, which I am perfectly fine with people that are trans. They are 0.7% of the population, but you wouldn't know that by the way it's being pushed down our throat with every single like TV show and movie coming out with some hint towards it, and it being mentioned and talked about on media all the time, and people being accused of being transphobic, and trans people going to schools and performing and doing weird stuff. It's very extremist. And is it supposed to make us accept something to move the Overton's window? There's all sorts of different ways you can look at this, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because it's another thing used to make you mentally accept new standards. Lastly, I'll speak of one you all know, but I must mention it, is propaganda. Everyone knows the propaganda, right? It's the act of deliberately spreading false or deceptive information, ideas, rumors, doctrines, or principles propagated by an organization or movement to help or harm a target person, a group of people, a movement, an institution, a whole nation, etc. But sometimes it isn't the information that we're told that sways our worldview. It is the information that's suppressed and kept hidden deep beneath the collective consciousness, because there is efforts to hide things too. There is stuff that no government or industry wants you to know. You can trust me on that. So that's it. Now you're ready for the next extreme political agenda or fear campaign that the news runs. It's like taking off a pair of dark sunglasses you've had on your entire lifetime, and now you're seeing color for what it truly is for the first time. Enjoy that clarity. Much love to everyone out there. You take care of yourself. Thanks for tuning in and sticking with me. And join me for some more informative episodes coming up soon. Look down in the description below for ways you can support and help this podcast, videocast out. This is Jay signing out. You take care. Later.